So as Brittany said, my name is Jake. I lead our customer success team here at Omilia, and more importantly, I've been working with these guys on the Taco Bell project for the last 2 years or so. So we've spent the last 2 days talking about contact centers and everything we're doing around there. We're going to switch it up a little bit and have some fun now talking about fast food and drive-thrus and what we're doing together there. So I have Bill and Will with me. I'll let you guys do a quick introduction. Bill, you want to go first?
Yeah, hi, Bill Brungard. I'm the Senior Director of Solutions Consulting with HME. HME is the leading manufacturer of drive-thru headsets in the world, and I've been with HME for 35 plus years and really enjoy it.
Excellent. I'm Will Fotsch. I'm the Vice President of Restaurant Evolution at Taco Bell. So I have the privilege of leading an amazing team that focuses on making it easier for team members to really deliver great experiences to our customers. So for anyone who doesn't know Taco Bell, we've been around since 1962. Very proud of our heritage, where Glenn Bell started a taco business in a burger world. So we're super proud of our ability to think differently and approach the business in unique and interesting and innovative ways. So our mission is to inspire and enable the world to live Más. We've got over 8,000 restaurants around the world, over 250,000 team members who we have the privilege of enabling. So that's, awesome. It in a snapshot.
Thank you. So I think first we'll start off, Bill, around the ecosystem and the partnership that we have together. So HME has obviously, been around, synonymous with the hardware and the infrastructure and the drive-thru. What, as we started on this journey, made Omilia the right partner as we're going into the voice AI age?
Yeah, so first we began our development back in 2018, 2019, and developing this new technology of AI, and the hardware that we had at HME was very store-centric, meaning it didn't reach outside to other devices, anything like that. So through the integration, we built these Frankenstein, I'll call them, devices that, with all these different wires going in and out. And through that, it really, showed us, because you'd have someone from the Omilia side that had their hardware, you'd have the HME side of it, you'd have two technicians that would be coming out, the coordination between the technicians. It was very cumbersome. And at that point, HME realized that in the future we needed to design a different platform. And so through that platform, we developed something that was more than just drive-thru, but communication-centric for the restaurant. So it's not exclusively for drive-thru, but multiple ways of communicating with the crew with different devices in that. So through the development, we developed what we call Nexio. We introduced that in 2022. And what we've done with that is we've used our patented HD sound quality, high wideband communications with that. And what that does is really enhances the capability and the ability for the crew and the bots to be able to understand what the customer is saying. And so simple things like you might think about, the most common is beef and bean, right? From a Taco Bell standpoint. Those are most common things that get confused by the order taker. And sometimes even the customer, right, when you're repeating it back. Or fries and Sprite, that's another one in the industry that's really, you think about it and what the capabilities are to do that. So with the wideband, we were able to enhance that. We also moved the A to D conversion, analog to digital conversion, out to the speaker post. And what that did is help reduce the interference so that we had a cleaner signal that was going both to the employee as well as to the bot system. And that greatly improved the intelligibility and the accuracy of the system. And then we developed an API for remote access. So again, back when we started this, we really didn't have any interfaces with the outside world. And so the APIs that we've developed with both Taco Bell and with Omilia have really made the device and the integration of the three companies really work good together. So we get to what we like to say is a zero-touch interface.
Yeah, and you're talking about the zero-touch activation. That's a big differentiator for us. So can you talk a little bit about, if you're an operator or store owner, what does that look like when we actually turn it on? Like, how does that work between Omilia and HME?
Yeah, it really is a very basic process. I mean, essentially, Taco Bell decides to go live with Omilia with bio or voice AI ordering. HME applies our subscription Nexio Pro to that base station, then it routes the audio automatically to Omilia, and we're ready to go. It's really no touch, so no two technicians are having to go out there. The integration, from a troubleshooting standpoint, we both from a Taco Bell, Omilia, and HME integrate, and that partnership has been really great. As with any new development, there's some hiccups, some things that happen along the time, and all three teams have really worked closely together to have a great success in development.
Awesome, thank you. So, Will, now we'll shift over to Taco Bell. So you guys have been, one of the earliest and biggest adopters of voice AI in the QSR space. Can you talk a little bit about what that journey's been like, evolving from labs to pilots to production to scaling?
Sure. First, I want to put the audience to work. I think everyone's sitting down and want to ask a few questions. So how many of you have at least been through a restaurant drive-thru? Please stand up if you have.
Real interaction.
All right, the vast majority. I see a few people who haven't, though. That's helpful context. All right, stay standing if you've been through a Taco Bell drive-thru. Oh, all right. We have a few.
Where is she?
There's some opportunities for a few folks to live Moss, but we'll have to work on that. Stay standing if you've been through a Taco Bell voice AI drive-thru. All right, so we have some more around the country who will have to have a chance to experience it. And so, if you go back for Taco Bell, again, all about sort of our muse is the cultural rebel. We want to appeal to a consumer who's comfortable doing things differently. And we have a lot of expertise in the drive-thru. And so, QSR, InTouch Insights, does a study every year. We've been the fastest drive-thru in America for a bunch of years now. However, what we really started to notice a few years ago is we have an opportunity to really lean in more on hospitality. I think order accuracy, friendliness, et cetera, aren't quite what we aspire to. And so that's been something that we are really laser focused on. And so when we started the journey, we were really trying to figure out how do we create a win-win-win, meaning how do I make an easier experience for the team members such that they've got less to do, can deliver a better experience to the customers in their interactions? How do we make sure the customer has a consistently better experience in the drive-thru? And how do we make sure that leads to better unit economics for all of our owner-operators? And so we went through a process of, spent a year or two identifying different players in the space of who had sort of the best technology that we thought would be a great partner for our initial proof of concept. We selected Omilia, and then it was in, late 2023 that we went live with our first restaurant. We were a little bit slower than some others. We wanted to make sure that we felt really good about that experience from a consumer and team member perspective and had all the technology sort of integrated and working well. And we're really excited about how we can continue to innovate in the drive-thru. The drive-thru is one of the few areas in the restaurant where historically we had really no data. And so, Bill was talking a little bit about sort of the changes of when it was analog to digital in the restaurant. And what that meant was if we did a big push, like let's say we had a summer drive to sell more drinks, and so we wanted to make sure that we were offering to all of our customers if they wanted to drink with their order. If something worked or didn't work, we never knew, was it the design of the program or was it just the execution that we had in restaurants? And so this technology had a huge capability for us to know with confidence that the execution is where we know it's going to be because it's going to be 100% every time, so we can actually start learning more effectively. And then it was really in early 2024 that the three of us got together, meaning HME, Omilia, and Taco Bell, to really re-architect the solution rather than the Frankenstein that Bill was talking about in order for us to have kind of a software-only solution that can move really fast such that we can deploy at greater scale, which has two benefits. One is we can move faster so we can learn faster, and two is the economics are just better from a franchisee perspective. Our perspective has always been to have more of a pull versus a push strategy. So we've never told the team members or the operators, you have to have voice AI or you have to use it in a certain way. Instead, we wanted to make sure we have a solution that could work. And so from a team member perspective, we offered it up. And we just sort of observed. We saw if they thought it worked really well, they could have it turned on, they could deliver a better experience to consumers. If it wasn't working, they could turn it off and take care of customers in a different way, which has enabled us to learn a ton about the technology itself, the operations, the team member, et cetera. And that's gotten us to where we are today, where we've shared publicly we're at over 600 restaurants with voice AI, as far as we know. That makes us the global leader of any other concept anywhere in the world. And super excited for the potential here.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that later. But I think talking about, we did a lot of fine-tuning during that phase before the rollout and during those early pilots. What was the moment when you were like, okay, hey, this works, there's something here, we want to take it and push out into the market?
Yeah, I'll say I was super skeptical back in like mid-2023 with the solution where it was in the lab. I remember asking like pretty basic questions and the solution like wasn't there. I was getting really nervous about going live in store one and how was it going to go. But then it seemed like a miracle in a few weeks, the work the team pulled off to get live in store one for it to work pretty well. I think for me, what I'm really proud about is taking that team member first approach, which I think now most folks sort of recognize across the industry that it's the way to go. At the time, though, there were different pressures. I think if you go back to late 2023, there was the FAST Act going into place in California in particular, where the minimum wage was raising from $16 to $20 an hour. And so there were a number of peers in the industry who thought of this solution as something where they wanted to, replace or change the team member role to no longer take orders. We felt very differently about that. And so I think the challenge with some approaches that competitors took was they had a closed loop system, and the reasoning is simple. If you want to take that work entirely off the team member's plate, but the challenge is that totally disrupts the connection between team members and customers. So if anything went wrong, the team members had no ability to jump in and take care of the order. The other piece was the integration that we had with our digital menu board in order to make an easier experience in the drive-thru. If you don't have that order confirmation, when you place the order, you have two choices. Either an AI solution has to repeat the order back, which is really slow and cumbersome, especially if you're trying to operate quickly at a lunch peak, or you just kind of hope that it's the right order, and then you find out at the window what happens. So we're super proud that we were able to get kind of creative around how we approached it. For the learning itself, we learned quite a bit along the way. I mean, we're still learning quite a bit. I mean, everything from network connectivity to all of the base functionality of the technology, the difference of a restaurant that has a lot of airport noise versus highway noise versus other circumstances going on in order to tune that out and really get a good view. And then we also learned a lot around kind of the execution of operations. So I think the good thing about an AI solution is we can know, or really a robotic solution more generally, we know with 100% confidence that it is asking what we want it to our customers. The bad thing is 100% of the time it is asking what we have asked it to in the drive-thru. And what I mean by that is team members will take shortcuts. Sometimes they take shortcuts just because it's easier for them. Sometimes they take shortcuts because they have an intuitive understanding with customers around, this person seems to be in a rush or they're a little cranky. Maybe I won't ask them that extra question and have things going. And those are a lot of the things that we've been learning. But I think when we knew we were onto something was when we were able to look at that sort of win-win-win mentality of what were we doing for consumers, for the financials, and the team member. And so if I just use publicly available data on the consumer side, if you look at the QSR InTouch Insights study, we have seen that voice AI restaurants have higher total customer satisfaction than the non-voice AI restaurants, which is great for consumers because our team members are able to really connect at the window and able to ensure order accuracy, et cetera. We have seen on the financial side, you can see quite clearly that upsell consistency and driving check has been a big win. And that's maybe a little bit more challenging for our concept in particular. If you go to the burger players, it's very clear, like, do you want fries with that or upgrade your combo? Our menu is quite different. And so there's a different level of complexity to think around what is a relevant offer for a consumer that might make sense. And then third, which I'm really most proud of, is how do we make it easier for team members? I think we were confident we were able to take some of the workload off and that would make a better environment. What I didn't know is whether or not we'd be able to move the needle on turnover, and that's ultimately where it can kind of hit the P&L. And what we've seen is that we've been able to, by making it easier for team members, the restaurants where we've had the AI solution deployed has had lower team member turnover than the restaurants without, which is huge. It makes a better environment so folks stick around longer, they have a better time at work, which enables them to deliver a better experience to our guests, which I'm super proud of.
Yeah, and kind of staying on that human piece of it, what did you learn around the employee adoption when we first rolled it out, and kind of the change management that we did during that process?
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey. You know, at the beginning, there was a lot of apprehension. I remember in store one, we had like one sort of team member who was very frustrated and concerned around what does this mean for the future of jobs. AI is trying to do something, which was never the case, was never our intent. It was always to make it easier for team members. And then by our consistency in showing like we're actually making it easier, no one is, actively trying to replace anything here. The team members started to realize it is positive. And so we've even had, our team members should not be speaking to media without having a conversation first, but some did. And when they did, they actually were saying very positive things because the experience has been better for them. And so really proud of that. And we've seen the mindset of the restaurants where have been most successful. It's the team members embrace that learning. And it's funny for many in the industry, they have like named their AI solution with some branded thing. And we may choose to do that in the future, but for now, we've let the team members interact with how they want. And so there's some pretty entertaining names out there. I think two of my favorites are, one is our RGM Ruth, who's in Dallas, and there's Boquisha is the name of their AI solution. And then my other is one that we've got in Indianapolis, and so there refers to the AI solution as Becky with the good hair. But what's interesting on the mindset is if something goes wrong, they jump in and say, Boquisha, Becky's still new here, so thanks for giving her a chance. And when they interject in the right way, it takes the pressure off of the customer experience and actually creates a better experience overall, even when the AI solution doesn't work as perfectly as it can, versus getting more defensive. And so it's been really interesting as we've had that sort of pull versus push strategy, how we've learned more and been able to package some of those best practices. So for new restaurants that are getting on board, we provide some training for team members so they understand how they can and should jump in and give a little bit of tips for best practices for how to use the solution most effectively.
Awesome. And then transitioning over to you, Bill, I think kind of staying on that as far as what are you seeing? You're working with different franchisees, you're working with different stores. What are you seeing as best practices starting to emerge to encourage consistent performance in all of these different stores that are in different areas, different demographics, et cetera?
Well, I think with any company, it's about the brand and brand standardization, right? So you go to a Taco Bell and you know whether you're in Indianapolis or you're in San Diego or you're somewhere else, it's about that standardization. And that's what this starts to do. It starts to standardize how you're greeted, what you're greeted with, how it's being taken. It's all about the brand and the brand image. And that's really where it's really helping identify that. Additional things are data, right? There's a lot more data, as Will mentioned, that there was this gap in the industry where the interaction between the employee and the customer was there, but nobody was monitoring that or really evaluating how is it positive experience, is it a negative experience? And being able to look at the data and be able to analyze that data and make changes. And we've made a lot of different changes. And we talked about, we want to go fast. No, we don't go too fast. I think there's a saying at Taco Bell, we want to go fast enough so we don't break the taco shell, right? And so you're going so fast.
They're easy to break.
And so you don't want to get to that. So being able to identify those things are really helpful. And then the last thing is just remote updates, right? The ability to update the firmware, the interactions, the functionality. And as we learn about the product and about the customer, being able to make changes to that.
Yeah, and you hit on something there around the data that we'll talk about now. Is so we've all been here. We've heard about Omilia's workforce AI solution. We recently just piloted that in the Drive-Thru. So we're using it to analyze the customer to crew member interactions to understand, okay, are they adhering to the script? Are they doing a warm greeting? Are they upselling? And all that type of stuff. So as we're doing that, and we shared the results with Will a couple weeks back, how do you see that influencing the continuous improvement loop as we go forward now that we have visibility not only into the voice AI drive-through, but now also when it's, customer to crew.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited about the potential here on multiple fronts. And so, if I think about the relative maturity of where we're at with the AI solution today, it guarantees sort of a minimum baseline. And so you will have a consistent experience every time. You won't have a negative experience with a team member through the drive-through. However, our best drive-through service champions are still offering a top-tier hospitality in terms of the speed, the way they connect with customers, et cetera. And so what I'm really excited about is twofold. One, how do we learn such that we can train our team members to be more effective when it's appropriate for a human to be involved? But also, how do we enable the AI solution to go from something that's, call it, better than average to really be delivering at that kind of top-tier hospitality? And then it enables our team members to really redeploy and to connect with customers. Because today, it's a hectic environment if you're a drive-through service champion, and especially in a location that doesn't have voice AI. There's kind of 4 primary activities that you have to do. You're taking the order on the headset. You are also making drinks at the same time while you're taking payment from a different customer at the window and then actually handing out the order. And so the challenge there is, I was having an RGM roundtable earlier this year, and I was asking area coaches and restaurant general managers what was getting in the way of delivering great hospitality. And part of the challenge today is if they're hiring for a service champion and they have a choice between someone who can multitask really well or someone who's really bubbly and will deliver great hospitality, they're going to go with that multitasking person every time. And I'd love to live in a future where we can really lean in on hospitality number one, because we've made that job easier, because a lot of the activity they don't have to worry about. We're able to strip out a lot of that cognitive load. And so it really makes it interesting, too, for us to get smarter around how do we balance at sort of peak times of day, like lunch or dinner rush, really getting that speed and transactions, the thing that service champions are like naturally doing to get more guests through the door, while on the shoulder periods, like if you go to a Taco Bell between 2 and 4, we have happier hour. You're able to get a drink for only $1. Would highly recommend going, telling your friends, and that's a great time for us to have that conversation and say, hey, for only $1 more, you can have whatever drink you'd like. So being able to capture that balance of driving check in the customer experience at shoulder times, but also driving peak throughput to maximize transactions and taking care of as many guests as possible is really exciting that we can continue to learn with solutions like this.
Yeah. Well, we've heard a lot talked about, how we got here. Now, for the exciting stuff, where do we go next? If we're looking at the drive-through in the next 5 years, where do we see that going? What do you guys think? I guess, Bill, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think there's, when we talked about Nexio and it as being the next generation, communications platform, there's a lot of things that, from Gen AI features and functionality that can be there, and taking it to the next level, as Will mentioned, training and turnover and those types of things. How do we help the crew members when they run into a situation, ask, Omilia, how do I do this? How do I clean out the steamer, or what is the right process for closing down for a new manager or a shift leader that's just learning? So how do we help them out from a communications standpoint with that? And then doing additional features and functionality where we're integrating with other HME products that measure the speed of service, and how do we provide information to Taco Bell and Omilia so they can make business decisions on, do I upsell, don't I upsell, when do I do that, when don't I do that, in a more dynamic standpoint versus now where we kind of have, okay, from 11:30 to 1:30, we don't upsell. Well, what if I don't have anybody in the drive-thru, and it's a perfect opportunity to do that, right? So I think there's a lot more to be gained from that in the voice and the data aspect.
And Will, what about you? What do you see in the next 5 years in the drive-thru?
Oh, I'm really excited about what I think we'll be able to do in the future of the drive-thru. So I think about it on probably 3 different dimensions. So one would be sort of nearer term that I kind of talked about before, of just how do we get a digital solution operating at the top tier of hospitality, such that the AI itself is operating the same as our best-in-class drive-through service champion anywhere in the world. I think we'll be able to get there in the next few years. Two is kind of what I think Bill was hinting at, is just really think differently about digital experiences in the drive-thru. I mean, imagine if you saw on TikTok a certain campaign from Taco Bell, and then you went in the drive-thru and you heard that same voice and that sort of media advertising narrative came through in a connected way. And then because you're a loyalty customer, we know what's best for you. You're seeing a different experience on the digital menu board, having a different conversation with a different voice that makes sense and is personalized to you, and we already know that you prefer your black bean crunch wrap because you're a vegetarian and would like to have it with jalapenos, and we're able to deliver that seamlessly and really quickly. I think those are the types of experiences we'll be able to unlock in the next few years. And then as Bill was also hinting at, I think just using AI to make it easier for team members more broadly. You know, today I'm a little embarrassed that we still have a number of paper-based processes that are in our restaurants, and we're working to digitize those for two reasons. One, you know, I'm pretty good at math, but if it's 4 a.m. and I'm working a closing shift, my math gets a little rough. And so these are the types of things that we can start to do for our team members to make it easier. So they're not dealing with those types of decisions. We're able to reduce their cognitive load and just make it easier for them to lean in on the things that they do great, of really connecting with our customers, building great culture in the restaurant, and just sort of delivering an overall better experience for everyone.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the journey, you know, how we got here. If there's someone here in the room who's thinking, hey, I'm thinking about, getting started in the voice AI adventure with Omilia, what would be the kind of one piece of advice that you guys would give them?
I think it always comes back to training, right? If you implement it in the right way and with AI, that it's an assistant to help you and not to replace you, I think that the team members become more engaged with it and want to be part of it, and they're assisting you because they have a very stressful job, as Will mentioned, the 4 different things that they're trying to focus on, plus, who knows what kind of day they're having and their family life and what's going on around them, so there's a lot of stress on that. So I think it's really engaging the crew early on and getting their buy-in, and as Taco Bell, did, if it's not working for you, turn it off, right? Don't force them to take the technology, allow them and understand why it's not working for them, and go back and iterate and make it right for them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And in order to make sure that you're able to communicate with the team members, you need to be getting into the game for the right way and actually genuinely trying to make it easier for team members, which I would encourage anyone to do. And my one piece of advice would be to stay really close to the team member experience in the restaurant, or whatever solution you may be looking at. But that frontline employee experience is really important to understand. It's really easy, and I think especially for probably any of the folks in this room, for us to think about the data, and driving KPIs is really important, but if it's not connected to that human experience of what makes their job, what makes their life easier, that's where there's the biggest opportunity. And the thing I'm really proud of, and I would encourage sort of across any industry, is one of the things we aspire to at Taco Bell, and our chief people officer was talking about this on stage to all of our franchisees just last week, is how do we make that environment as good as possible? I would love for all of the Taco Bell team members to say, this is the best job. And I would encourage you to take that approach to whatever environment you're working in as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. We have about 5 minutes left, and we are the only thing standing between lunch and you guys. But I'll open it up for a couple minutes for any questions you guys have for any of us up here.
So you'd mentioned that you give your team members the opportunity to turn it on and off. Do you also give the guest in the drive-through line the opportunity to speak with an agent or AI?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you do that, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we've actually had some good learnings to it. So for instance, there is, at every Taco Bell location that has voice AI, at the speaker post, there's a sticker that will let you know that AI is used there. One of the learnings was we've actually changed what it says on that speaker to make it really clear. And so today, and I might get the words slightly wrong, but it says something like, AI is here to help, and so are we. If you'd like to speak to a team member, just say team member. So there's also other triggers if something's happening, so it happens in both directions. There are things where the solution is self-aware that it's hanging up, in which case it'll actually send a signal or notification for the team member to jump in, or the team member at any point in time can just jump in, so if they have a sense that someone's asking for it. But one of those triggers is just say team member.
That was large part of my question as well, trying to understand the interaction between human and AI, or team member and AI. So it sounds like AI can trigger and say, I need help. Also sounds like there's listening in as well. So is someone constantly listening and just things going sideways?
Yeah, and so for context, in a traditional Taco Bell drive-thru that doesn't have AI, you've got headsets on that the drive-thru service champion is listening to, but other team members are also listening into that headset. So it's a behavior that's very common in a QSR environment, that everyone's listening into the order. And the reason is because if they can get started on that order and make it a little bit faster, they'll sometimes jump ahead of it, even hitting the kitchen display system. So that way, you know, like I was in a Taco Bell last Friday, and ordered 3 not too complex but decent items for myself and my 2 girls. And you get to the window and the food's already there and ready to go because they jump on top of it. And so similarly with the AI solution, we've made sure the team members still listen in and they hear it just as if it was a traditional team member. So it sounds the same. So it's really easy from a change management perspective. They're not doing anything different than they were doing otherwise. But also they're listening in. So then if something happens, so, you know, in the morning where it's unlocked is if you're working in early shift, you usually have fewer people in the restaurant. You may be wandering around and taking care of some other things. And so it's great. They can listen in. They don't have to be chained right to the POS. They can be taking care of other things in the restaurant and then just jump in when it's time to give the order or if something happens and they need help.
Yeah. We actually have a full setup of the solution over here. So we have the headsets. We have the full experience. So I'd recommend come over. You can see what it is from a customer standpoint. You can put the headset on, see what it's like from a crew member standpoint. We have it all set up just over here around the corner. So.
Thank you. So I work for a financial institution, and before we started our journey with Omilia, we thought we had pretty good understanding why people are calling and caller behavior. And once we implemented Omilia, it was really like an eye-opening experience. So my question is, once you guys implemented Omilia, have you seen any surprises on how your customers interact with your system?
Oh, there have been lots of surprises. What's been interesting, because before this, we weren't really studying what even team members and consumers were doing. So I think we've learned a lot about consumer behavior more broadly of what they're looking for in the drive-thru. And then we also, as a brand, we serve all day parts. And so we actually have, we don't serve it everywhere, but an amazing breakfast. I think actually our breakfast is the best in the system. So if you have it around you, I would highly recommend the breakfast crunch wrap with sausage. But we also do great late night business. And our late night customers can behave differently depending on what else they've been up to for the day or the evening.
Down on Broadway over here, right?
And so some of them like to get a little creative with the AI solution, which has been a little challenging at times. But again, by having it sort of an easy system, we make it easy that if they're a little rambunctious, they can turn the system off and sort of encourage, call it more natural behavior in the drive-thru. But yeah, I don't know if that directly answers your question, but those are some of the things.